Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome everyone to today's seminar on blended learning on motivation and listening comprehensions. My name is Deva Ayu Zahra and I'll be your leader for these sessions. We're excited to have you here and we've prepared an engaging and informative topic what we have hope will spark some great discussions and ideas. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker. For the first speaker is Natanael Yudhistira. And today they will be sharing insights on blended learning on motivations and listening comprehensions talk, which we believe in especially relevant and impactful in today's context. Please join them. Faisal and Natanael, the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, moderators. Okay, for today's seminar, title is Blended Learning on Motivation and Listening Comprehensions. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Okay, before we begin, have you ever experienced blended learning? So today we will like to talk about blended learning and, and about how the impact of the blended learning, the motivation and the motivation of the blended learning itself. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Okay, for background of the study, the advancement of technology in education has created blended learning, which combine face-to-face instructions with online components. This method improves flexibility, resource accessibility, and student involvement, resulting in better learning experiences and retentions. Motivational drives participation and comprehension ensures understanding, but traditional techniques frequently fail to keep people interested. Blended learning combines multimedia, interactive activity, and self-paced learning to promote intrinsic motivation and deep comprehensions. Research employing the technology acceptance model, or TAM, and the theory of planned behavior, or TPB, identify elements such as perceived utility, ease of use, and learning attitude in adoptions. However, issues including technology infrastructure, digital literacy, and instructional design persist. This study investigates the effect of blended learning on engagement, behavior, and academic performance, offering insight on its efficacy in modern educations. Okay, slide, please. Well, this is the purpose of this study. We believe the purpose of this study. We believe that understanding the cause of motivation increase or decrease among students in blended learning. Second, connecting the effect of blended learning to students' learning comprehensions. Third, figuring out the student preference between online and offline class. Four, analyzing the occurrence of teacher-student interaction in online and offline class situations. For research questions, we got some questions here. There are 4 questions. First, what is the student's perceptions of blended learning itself? How does that affect their motivation to learn. Second, what are the main challenges of conducting blended learning? How does it affect their listening comprehensions? Third, how does blended learning method compare to traditional learning method? Which one does the students prefer more? Or how does the teacher-student interactions change in online classes compared to the offline or traditional classes? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, for background of the study, the advancement of technology in education has created blended learning, which combine face-to-face instructions with online components. This method improves accessibility, resource accessibility, and student involvement. Okay, next slide. Well, we move to the next chapter, which is the literature review, which containing of blended learning, student motivations, and the listening comprehensions. Okay. Okay. For blended learning, what is blended learning? Blended learning is a formal education program which allows students to learn at least partly through the content and instructions submitted online with independent control of time, place, sequences, and the speed of learning. Moreover, according to Merrill on 2012, as cited in paper by Dian Sari on 2022, blended learning is a mix of traditional classroom instructions, which in itself varies considerably, and instructions mediated by technology. In other words, blended learning method is a combination of traditional classroom learning with technology-based learning, or the modern learning. Similar opinions were also expressed by Anissa in 2014, who stated that blended learning is a learning system that combines learning face-to-face, classical learning, with online learning through the usage of the internet of the media. Based on the information above, we could define blended learning as a teaching and learning strategy that aims to achieve the learning objective. The learning objective with how to integrate classroom-based learning face-to-face with technology and information-based learning using the internet. According to Kalman on 25, he listed 5 key aspects of blended learning. First, live event. Live event is a synchronous direct learning or face-to-face teaching method. Second, self-paced learning. Self-paced learning allows students to learn whenever and wherever they are. Third, collaboration. Collaboration encourages both lecturer and students to work together to share their idea and knowledge through social process with the help of the internet. For assessment, in blended learning, the lecturer has to formulate an effective assessment, and they use it in modern class in traditional way. Five is performance method materials. If we plan to conduct a blended learning, we have to make sure that we have the sources to help us. Okay. Okay. Next is student motivations. There are two theory to back the blended learning in motivations. First is the self-determination theory. Self okay. Theory. Well, next. Uh, Previous slide, please. Okay, for listening comprehensions is okay. Blended learning proves uh, that improving the students' listening comprehensions, listening skills. First, because blended learning or the online learning was using a listening method to processing information to come to their knowledge. Second is bottom up and top down processing, which is and third is in the meta cognitive approach. Okay, next slide. And next slide will be delivered by our friends. Is for my friend is Natanael Gilbert Setiabudi. For Nathan, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Faisal. For the next session, we will have result and discussion. For this research, we had conducted an interview, a semi-constructed interview, alongside an observation of a classroom, an online classroom and an offline classroom. And for this study, we had gathered 10 respondents. Next slide, please. A total of 10 participants had been interviewed over the course of 1 week. The interview itself contained 3 questions regarding their motivation and listening comprehension ability during blended learning class, while also concerning the matter of preference compared to traditional method. These are the common theme among student responses. In students' motivation, the common theme are engagement with the lecturer and the students, interest in the material, quality of facility, and ease of access. Then in listening comprehension, we have technological problem and distorted noise. And lastly, in preference among students, the themes are convenience, accessibility, and comprehension material. Next, please. During the first question, 6 out of 10 participants expressed their disinterest in blended learning method. The common theme being that the lecturer was too focused in explaining the material and that they didn't feel the need to answer the question provided by the lecturer. There's also 4 respondents that mentioned that they felt sleepy during class, 2 respondents who mentioned the poor connection demotivate them from learning. However, there are 4 students that really enjoy blended learning and find this motivating due to the ease of access. Next slide, please. And for listening comprehensions, 8 out of 10 students express difficulty in understanding the lecture. The common themes are being that the poor connection and bad mic quality hinder their understanding of the lecture. Next slide, please. And lastly, in discussion, the effect of blended learning on students' motivation. The first is comparing our study to the study conducted by Lu in 2024 in a university in Vietnam. It revealed a more positive perception of that learning. The common theme of that study being that I wouldn't say I'm super keen on attending every single blended learning class, but it feels good when I do better than I thought I would do in English class, and that the technology stuff like online resources and online regular meeting with the teacher really helps me learn at my own pace. It makes me feel like I'm actually getting better. From this comparison, we can infer that blended learning depends heavily on the execution and the technological facility, and that the students need to be stimulated, whether by teacher-student interaction or engaging learning methods. Next slide, please. Next, we have the effect of blended learning on students' listening comprehension. A study by Soliha et al. In 2018 revealed that the students sought a higher comprehension in terms of listening. This means that the quality of technology and facility used in blended learning played a vital role in the success of the learning process, because comparing to our study, um, okay, that's all for our presentation. The conclusion is that blended learning is defined as a learning method that allows students to access material or class without being limited to time and space. Our research showed the flaws and advantages of learning in the eyes of English department students of Untirta. The main themes that seem to repeatedly brought up when discussing regarding the drawbacks of blended learning are lack of interaction, poor connection, and inability to focus. This result has shown in several other studies, leading to us to believe that in order to ensure the effectiveness of blended learning, the lecturer have to make sure to keep interacting and fuel this discussion among the students. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that insightful presentations. Now we move on to the Q&A segment. If anyone has questions, just feel free to raise your hands.
May I?
Yes, of
Yes, of
course.
course.
Okay, so my questions is, how does the pandemic impact the students' perceptions on online learning?
Okay, thank you for the questions. Yeah, again, we will invite Nathan or Faisal to respond to questions.
Okay. Uh, I will answer Gia's questions. Okay. For Gia, thank you for the questions. It's a great questions. And well, the pandemic impacting the students on online learning, because back in 2020, when all of the students can have a formal learning in schools or traditional learning, they started to use online learning, which like we do right now, using Zoom meeting, Google Meeting, and Google Classrooms. Okay, blended learning has shaping the students into a better using and better knowledge of technology. Well, we believe, and from the data we conclude is from from the data we conclude is the students are getting used to use the blended learning in teaching, and they are already okay with it, and maybe and some of them are uh, prefer to use the blended learning, because they think they can learn anywhere, everywhere, and anytime. Also, like the theory that we talked before, blended learning can affect their listening comprehensions and motivations. It proved by the previous study, and now we prove it by us. So I think that's the answer. Or okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Faisal.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's seminar. Thank you once again to our speaker, Nathan and Faisal, for the valuable insights, and to all of you for your attention and engagement. That's all from us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a great day ahead.